So are humans the agent of a new mass extinction? Let's take a look. This data is from the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and it's the estimated extinction rate of all species worldwide since 1975. So you can see that in 1975, the estimate is a few hundred, maybe, yeah, barely a few hundred. Then by 1985, it's several hundred a year. 5 years later, several thousand a year, and by the year 2000, at least 10,000 a year. At this rate, we are going to be creating a new mass extinction in the future. Now, here is the risk categories that the IUCN has come up with. Um, the threatened categories, critically endangered, endangered, and vulnerable, are the ones I'm going to speak about next. This scale goes from low extinction risk to basically extinct, from extinct in the wild to extinct. But it's the threatened category that we'll be looking at here. From 2008, the IUCN estimated different numbers of species. They have many different taxa, but the ones I'll be looking at include mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fishes. And again, these are on a worldwide basis. It's perhaps more revealing if you look at them as a percent of the total number of species in that taxa that were evaluated. So of mammals, 21% of mammals are threatened, using those three categories from their threatened definition. So 21% of mammals, 12% of birds, roughly 30% of reptiles, 42% just of turtles, 30% amphibians, and 37% fish. So all of them are in serious condition. That previous graph also means that 21% of mammals means 1 in 5 mammals is threatened or critically endangered. 1 in 8 birds, 1 out of 8 birds worldwide. 1 in 3 reptiles and amphibians, both reptiles and amphibians are 1 in 3. Turtles are even in worse shape, 1 in 2.5 turtles. And fish are nearly as bad off as turtles are, 1 in every 2.5 fish worldwide. Now, the United States doesn't have too much to brag about because we've got a lot of endangered species here too. The ones in the worst condition are fish, mollusks, other invertebrates, and plants. So we have quite a few problems with endangered species as well. Now, E.O. Wilson, famous biologist from Harvard, came up with the acronym HIPPO to help us remember the human-induced causes of extinction. Before I went through some reasons why some species are inherently, by their behavior or their lifespan, more at risk than others. But now, the other side of the coin is that humans are doing things that will make those particular species that are already at risk because of their behavior or their life histories to be even that much more vulnerable. So this is an acronym, HIPPO, that helps us remember all these things. And the first one, H, it's a very common sense, right? Habitat loss, H stands for habitat. I, what would I stand for? Introduced species, exotic species. P can be population growth. P also stands for pollution. And O for overharvesting. So these are the human-induced causes of extinction, and we'll go through them one at a time. Now, what are the odds, first of all, that I'm going to ask about HIPPO on the next test? Let me think. Oh, my goodness, it's about 100%. So you might want to take a serious look at these before the next test. H stands for habitat. So we need lots of different types of habitat, and human land disturbance, agriculture is the #1 use of land worldwide. So it disturbs more habitat than any other land use. Although there are lots of land uses that disturb habitat, agriculture is number one for sheer number of acres. But, uh, but agriculture can also leave edges where there's some habitat left for different species. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later in the semester. Let's see, here, according to the theory of island biogeography, which island would have the lowest species richness? The fewest species, let's say. A large island close to the mainland, a large island far from the mainland, a small island close to the mainland, a small island far from the mainland, or none of these. Islands don't really have species. Well, think about it for a bit. Which one would it be? Definitely a small island far from the mainland is going to have the fewest species. Now, so why is that relevant? It's relevant because, in a sense, we are creating small islands of habitat that are left in vast oceans of development. Small, isolated islands support fewer species. So we're creating islands, and it's impossible to get from south of LA to north of LA if you're a species that wants to walk through that area because there's no way to get through that developed area. In hippo, I stands for what? Well, here's a brown tree snake. If you've heard about the brown tree snake, it's the snake that ate Guam. And this was an introduced species in Guam. So the introduction of exotic species is another cause of extinction, and a very serious one worldwide, where this snake, for example, is eating lots of birds on Guam. In hippo, P stands for, let me guess, population. Population growth exacerbates the other problems of habitat destruction, introduction of species, pollution, and overharvesting. The more people there are, the more of these problems there's going to be. If there were a tenth as many people on the planet, we wouldn't be having this problem. Not as seriously, anyway. So, let's see, what would this stand for? It's another P. So, and these are some of its characteristics: acid rain, sulfur dioxide, mine drainage, industrial runoff, sewage, chemical and oil spills, waste disposal, soil pollution, insecticides, herbicides. These are all, of course, part of pollution. Speaking of pollution, here is a real short story about DDT that shows how things can get confusing and not have some of the reactions that we expect. So mosquitoes were a very serious problem in Borneo. And they used the chemical DDT, which is what the chemical that Rachel Carson protested the use of. But because mosquitoes were causing malaria, they decided to use DDT to kill the mosquitoes. It also killed several other insects, which in turn caused lizards to die because lizards ate the dying insects. Naturally, cats then ate the dying lizards, so the cats died, and pretty soon the mice and rat population on Borneo exploded. Then the increase in mice and rats brought the bubonic plague, so it sent the people back to bed again with a new problem. So they solved that by dropping hundreds of paratrooper cats with little parachutes on them, and they gave out bed nets to use instead of DDT. So that was maybe a better solution than all that other hullabaloo that they went through. So hippo, in hippo, the O stands for what?